Welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, helping you get to your onward journey. A friendly service that helps you get from A to B, or probably nowhere at all.
Hello, welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me, he's actually here 2 weeks in a row. Can you believe it? It's co-host and producer.
Sam. And the only reason I'm here is because otherwise it affects my sickness record and I could be sacked by the Model Rail Replacement
Yes,
Podcast.
you are on management for attendance. This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the spiel of two people who work in a corporate world.
Unfortunately, we can't accept stubbed toenail as a reason to keep calling in sick.
No.
Yeah.
Or ran out of cheese. Although it
it's
is
like
a
you're
medical condition.
running out of cheese.
Anyway, I am here,
It's made me
James.
mad, and I built a rocket and flew to the moon. All right, Wallace.
Oh, this has gotten silly. Oh, anyway, how are you, James?
Oh, how am I? I'm all right. I'm not too bad, I suppose. Yeah, all good, I guess. There we are. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Full disclosure to our listeners, my hobby's been minimal this week because a new Pokemon game came out. So any spare time I have had has been sat playing my Switch. So I'm sorry in
Any,
advance.
any trains in that game? You can ride a train and catch a Pokemon on there.
You
Anything you can relate
actually
it to the?
the game does start on a train. So I mean, technically yes, but that was right at the beginning, and I haven't seen said train since then.
You didn't feel inspired after being on that train to build a Pokemon themed layout with said train going around the tracks.
Oh,
You
oh,
could have like the little.
Chris, you listening? I need a TT scale printed Blastoise and Charizard, please. Make it happen.
What that come out of those?
Oh, well, no, they're going on my station platforms now. I've got. This is when you go on a Star Wars rant, and I'm just like, I really like Episode One, and that's basically where that's my sort of lore knowledge on all of it.
Hang on, when you say episode one, because I'm pretty sure this is the way, do you mean the Phantom Menace or do you mean A New Hope? Do you mean chronological episode one or the very first Star Wars that was made?
The one that's called Episode One.
Oh, the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I think it's because that was like I was around. Well, wait a minute. I was definitely. Was I in senior school?
In 1999, it came out.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was in year six. So, but yes, I remember it was one of like those big first geeky films that I saw as a child, and it hooked me. And having Darth Maul with the dual lightsaber was pretty cool.
Yes, it was.
But nothing divides a room like Jar Jar Binks. But I mean, in terms,
He's
it was.
grown. He's grown on me over the years.
What is that? Because there's worse things out there. I tell you what really cemented my
Yeah.
love of it is it was the first Lego Star Wars sets that came out, and I really wanted that little blue underwater submarine kit. Was it the Bunda, the Gunda?
Gondola. The
Well,
Gungan Gondola
that's
submarine.
it.
Yeah,
I
very
really
sweet
wanted
set.
that, and the pod racers. I wanted Sebulba's pod racer so badly when I was little. So yeah, there we are. We're we're 5 minutes into this recording, and we have talked a very bare minimal about trains, and it was in a Pokemon game.
Well, I mean, I'm more than happy to talk Lego Star Wars. I mean, yeah. I haven't got the Lego pod races. I never got round to them, and I was like, I
Oh,
see the backdated sets, and I do think, why didn't I buy pod races?
well, yeah. I mean, Sebulba's pod racer was awesome because it was like a anyway. James, bring us back on track.
It felt illegal for the race.
I
It's
mean,
so big. Yeah.
you're talking
Um,
about when there was a Jedi driving a. Anyway, James, what have you been up to hobby wise this
what have
week?
I been up to? Uh, 009ing, actually. I think
I did see
mostly.
that you had a new video out. I haven't managed to watch it yet.
Yeah. Oh right. Well, that's the end of that conversation, isn't it?
Well, no, I mean, what else have you been up to? Because I know you pre-film a lot of things. So actually, you trying to tell me that is literally up to the moment that you've done would be a complete
Would be a
lie.
lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, would be a lie. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I did put the video out this week because I'd done enough footage for a video. But yeah, the platform that was done this week and the station building actually. So yeah, I've been working on the station and retaining wall on Dinrid. The retaining wall that was done a while ago. And that was just a case of using plaster cut to look like slate. You sort of roll it out really thin. And when it's going almost hard, you score it into strips and then let it cure, and then you just break the pieces, and it will look like bits of slate. And if you colour it, it looks really well. But I couldn't quite get the colours right, so in the end, I ended up painting it and dry brushing it to sort of make it look like slate, and it works quite well. I think. And then yeah, just working on the station platform now for the Rid, which was just a case of some 5mm foam. I had a few hiccups with it because I'd done the usual trick of putting a pencil on the corner of my longest piece of rolling stock and then going around the curves to mark out where the platforms would be and where it would hit. Forgot that obviously when it gets to the centre, it's actually the centre of the coach is going to be the closest part, not the corner. So I'd gone out of my way to build this platform. I'd done the filler on top. I'd done all the stonework around the edge, all the brick. And then when I put it down and tried to test with coach on either side to make sure there was enough clearance, it was catching. I was like, oh no. So yeah, I had to resolve that in it down the middle and then just taking a sliver out and then rejoining it. And amazingly, it's worked, gone back together, and you can't even see the join. So I did that, and then yeah, I did the platform waiting shelter on it as well, which is the same kit I used on Ford Dinrid. So I was like, well, I have a similar building style across the line. So it's like the 12-pound kit. They have like a little wooden shelter with a slate roof. But this one I've adapted because it's going on an island platform. I was like, it was a bit silly to have a wall at the back because like, you get in the shelter and wait one side for the train. But if your train came in the other platform, you got to walk all the way around. So cut that open, and I think it came out quite well actually. So, but yeah, you'll see it all in the video. And otherwise, I've just been working on these shops on the high street. They're getting there. They're mostly those petite properties. They're a bit bizarre because I've got a few number of the shops, and they're all roughly about 5 centimeters in depth for a low relief building. And then for some reason, the pubs are about 10 centimeters or to 7 to 10 centimeters deep, so they
Really?
stick out more. Yeah, so I was expecting them all to be the same depth. So obviously, if you watched the video before, you see I built the Royal Oak pub on the corner, and that sticks out further in the shops. But I kind of where it is, you can just about get away with it. And then
Right.
I've got
Okay.
another pub, and I put it further down, and that was so far that the road became an alleyway. So I've had to chop it back, which meant I lost the dormer rooms in the loft. To adapt it so it fit on the layout. So yeah, I find it quite curious that they're not all the same depth. Just whenever I see photos of all the shops online of the advertisement, and they all look like they'd work quite well. But yeah, on my layout, I was having problems. Yeah, I suppose I've been a bit busy on that really. It's mostly buildings. Yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Oh, very, very nice. I tell you one thing I have done. Um, I have been sat trying to plan a more involved 009 layout in terms of something that um, we've spoken historically about doing automation and stuff like that. And I think personally, for me, the scale of my big layout is too big for me to try and work automation into it and try and get sort of the block detection on such a large scale layout. So I've been trying to think of how keep it simple, don't do multi levels, but try and do a 009 layout that has a sort of like an automated fiddle yard and like a little station halt, but it's got a sort of like a Y siding sort of thing. And the idea is that you constantly have things moving in and out and sort of going off on that. And yeah, you and Tom and George are bad influences when it comes to 009. And George sent me a message yesterday morning saying, welcome back, which actually made me go, oh, I feel like this needs to be done. It's a long way off because it's the kind of thing you'd have to spend money on. And I want to get a little bit of scenery done on the TT layout first. But it does feel like as the nights creep in, 009 seems to grab me more. I don't know why.
It's great, and we'll convert you back. We'll bring you back. We converted Steve. He's one of
That's
us
true.
now.
Yeah.
One of us. Yeah, 009's the way. It's perfect scale. It's the true scale, providing you're modelling Talaclin, Chorus, or the third row I can never remember the name of. But as long as your track is 2 foot 3, through to scale. There we are. Right. there's no news this week, not that we can recall. But can we talk about our raffle?
Yes, let's talk about the raffle. What do you want to address first?
Firstly, we're already halfway over halfway, £1 to our target of raising £1,000. So thank you to those who've donated so far. I mean, we'd love you to keep pushing that higher and higher. I know you want to win the prizes, but do tell your friends. Maybe tell someone who's not interested in model railways about this wonderful money-raising cause. And if they win the prizes, they can just give them to you. And, then you get something. And some, needy children get something too, because we are raising money for Ash for Kids, a wonderful charity this time of year will raise money to provide presents to those children who are less fortunate in our society, making sure that they have a happy Christmas as well. So, Sam, how can people get involved in this raffle? And why would they want to get in the raffle? What can they get out of it?
Oh, well, here we go. So let's see if I can remember this correctly this time. So, up for grabs in the lists of prizes. We haven't split them into the particular categories yet, but there will be. I think James and I have decided we're going into 4 categories at the moment. So we have got a Class 60 by Cavalex. We have got a Hornby TT train set. We have got a Hornby double O gauge train set. We have got the Hornby Christmas train set. We have got vouchers from the likes of Model U. We have got wagons from Tom from Buckles Kelly Station. We've got a Class 47 from Neil from the Little Layout Company, as well as one of his brand new MLC units. Lucy from Farkham, or the artist formerly known as Farkham, is donating a custom renumbered and weathered, I think it's a Class 37 that she's going to be donating to the cause. Steve is going to be donating models of myself, him, and Tom from Buckles Kelly Station, if I can remember off the top of my head. We do also have, let's see if I've got, if I can get this is fine. We have Cymru Rails is donating some 3D printed wagons. We also have Ron Lines, who are also donating a train set, double O gauge train set. And also we have got something coming from Revolution Trains. It has not been confirmed what we're getting, but that is in the post. We have also got the controller from Gagemaster, as well as some useful bits to help you with your model railways. James, have I got it all?
I think you have. Yeah.
If I've missed off a prize, if I've missed off a prize, I am really, really sorry. I do have all of this written down, but unfortunately, I am just out of reach of all the stuff that's written down. So apologies to everybody. But either way, I think you'll agree. The list of Train Sporter boxes. That was the other one. Train Sporters, who make the really useful boxes for carrying your locomotives in and your rolling stock. They are donating an N gauge, a TT, and a double O gauge box to the raffle prizes as well. So massive thank you to Train Sporters as well for coming on board with that. And a massive thank you to everybody who is donating to this wonderful cause.
So how can you enter this raffle? Well, you need to go to Just Giving, and if you go onto Google or any other search engine, not that I don't think anyone uses any other search engine, but just Google Just Giving Model Rail Replacement Podcast, or Just Giving Sam Beatty Jones. Either one will bring up the result, and you can click on the link and it will take you to the page where every £5 donation will buy you a raffle ticket into our prize draw. The closing date will be the 14th of December, with the winners announced in the Christmas special on the 22nd of December. Just to note that due to the postage of such large items, we'll have to put this out to UK residents only. I'm very sorry, but we just can't afford it abroad. Very big prizes in there. And also to note, if you put an anonymous donation in, and then unfortunately we cannot put you in the raffle because we don't know who you are. So yeah, that is how you can win some of these wonderful prizes. And again, our thanks to all the companies and businesses and people who have kindly donated towards this well-worthy cause. Right then, Sam, I suppose it's time to go. Should we have a topic discussion or something?
Yeah, let's have a nice little laid-back topic about something that you and I are really knowledgeable in.
Excellent. Do you know anything about track planning?
No.
Me neither. Let's talk about that.
Wilson? Wilson! Yes, sir?
Is everything set for His Majesty's arrival?
Yes, sir. The chefs are preparing the banquet, and his room is prepared.
And the model room as per his request?
Yes, sir. The models are all out on display.
Your Majesty, welcome to my humble abode. Yes, very good, old sport. Come on, let's play trains. Absolutely, Your Majesty. What's this? Something wrong, Your Majesty? These locos, they're so clean, so fresh, like they're straight out of the box. All cleaned up for your arrival. Oh no, my dear boy, you know what I want. I want it dirty. Dirty? Show me your dirty shunter. Okay, here you go. Oh yes, that's the stuff. Who made this filth?
It was Emperor's Path, Your Majesty.
I think I'll have to make a royal appointment myself, and still have some change to buy my new helicopter.
You can get your models weathered by Emperor's Path using just the airbrush for a light dusting, or alternatively, oil paints and airbrush to add that extra depth. Contact Emperor's Path on Instagram at emperors_path, or alternatively, emperorspathcontact@gmail.com.
Emperor's Path? I'm the only emperor around here.
All right, well, where we are for another model rail topic discussion, which I suppose helps. It is a model rail placement podcast, I suppose. So, track planning. Do you plan your layout, Sam, when you build, or do you just put up a baseboard and hope for the best?
I mean, technically, I've done both. The TT layout did take some planning because it was a little bit more intense in its design, and I had to get the help of Peachy to help me design it, because to fit all of the things I wanted in there, it wasn't as simple as me just doing a fiddle yard and a loop around the room. My previous layout, I knew I had to plan the fiddle yard, but then after that, I sort of freestyled getting from one end of the fiddle yard around in a loop back round to the fiddle yard. That was very much a let's just see what works kind of situation. So yeah, from a planning point of view, and even in previous iterations, I have very much just sort of laid down something that I can start running trains on, and then adapted as I see fit further down the line. What about yourself?
I think it depends what I'm working on, really. Sometimes I will just, if I have the components, I find it a lot easier to visually see what I'm doing rather than trying to draw something out on a piece of paper, because I've had a go in the past at the computer-aided design stuff, but I've sort of slipped away from that, and partly because I think AnyRail is the most popular software to use, and it's not compatible on a Mac. And there are other programs you can use on a Mac, but I don't find them as user-friendly as what AnyRail was.
No.
So I tend to draw things out with pen and paper. But it's always difficult to gauge the size of your components of what you're drawing. You know, it's so easy to draw a set of points and go, right, there's a crossover there, and not actually consider how much space they're going to take out, because once you put points together, they're actually quite long. And you'll be amazed at how quickly they eat up your baseboard. So yeah, I'm more of a, if I've got a rough idea of how big I want the layout to be, I might just build the baseboard. And then if I've already got some track components, because say I've already worked at a previous project and I've got a box of, I've got boxes and boxes of track that I've collected over the years. I kind of lay the parts out and try and get a sort of visual idea of what I'm doing. But on other occasions, I will go out of my way to draw out a plan. But I think that's usually for a bigger layout idea, like when I decided to build stuff around the garage. That is too big for and too costly to start building baseboards, put them up, then lay some track down and go, yeah, this is how we do it. Especially if you want to model like bridges and valleys or viaducts and stuff like that, you've kind of got a plan in advance how your baseboards are going to go, because you don't want flat tops and then try and adapt them to try and make that space for the bridge and drop cut open a hole and drop it because now that's where the river's going to go, and it still always looks too flat. I'm more of a when it comes to building a layout, I'm more of the construction of an open baseboard kind of design where
Mhm.
the track is just on its own track bed, and then we'll build the scenery up and around it because that's how the real railway is when you look at it. It's never just on a flat bit of land unless it's going through the plains of Somerset where it always gets flooded. But um, maybe an East Anglia layout you might get away with that. But yeah, it's otherwise, there's plenty of hills and valleys that the railways pass through, and so I'm all for that design. So when it comes to bigger ones, I tend to, I'll get out some graph paper and try and draw my plans out. But again, it's still a case of working out curves and points because I think those are the hardest things to design on paper, and I think that's where computer aided design really comes into its own because it will show you if your curve is too tight or how long your junction's going to be with several sets of points. So I think each has its own advantage.
Yeah, and I think I personally, when I'm doing curves on a layout, I like to use set track curves, and I know that's not there'll have been a resounding wince from the people listening to this podcast. I like to know how much space my curves are going to take up because, as you say, once you start doing sort of slow, gradual curves, it does take up a considerable amount of space on your layout because the deeper the larger the curve or the more subtle the curve. What's the term? The the smoother the curve, the deeper the area that you're going to need to be. So the smaller the radius. So I like to use third and fourth radius curves. I think because they're the best of both worlds. They're not necessarily the smallest curves that you can possibly use, but they at least save you a considerable amount of space when you're doing them. It's nice to have that set so you're increasing the amount of space you have on your quote unquote your straight sections of track. Now I know there are a lot of people who like to have sort of a little bit of a curve going along your normal straights where possible, but if you can increase how big of an area that you need for that, I like to use set track curves for that because 9 times out of 10 when I'm doing my curves on my layout, I try and make them hidden by something anyway, so it feels like you can't necessarily see how small those curves actually are and how when you have things going around them they don't look so odd when they're hidden, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'll try and not use set track curves out on the main layout, but I have used them because they can be useful. On what I've currently built around the room in here, because the door is in the corner, and I've designed that swing gate to go there. I use set track curves to make sure that everything worked properly to get the track in line, to keep it in place for when it came to the swing gate because that's it's quite a complicated design there, and I think using streamline track and trying to flex it round and add that to the equation of what was already quite a complex design, sort of gives you a bit of problem. And yeah, I don't think some people do like using the set track. The main problem with set track is it doesn't have that, like you say, it's not got that smooth transition of going in from a straight line into the curve. It's kind of just bang, there you are, you've hit the curve, which kind of looks unrealistic in terms of modelling because that's not how the real way works. But it's also a case of compromising space, and sometimes you just have to use them. But I think they're a good guide for curve building because that's one of the hardest things I find is trying to work out your curves with Streamline. And I know you can get like the track setter stuff, but the full set's very expensive. It's just,
Yes, it is.
it's 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 what was it about £70 now or something like that? You want the full set of the track setters?
They are about £10 to £20 each, aren't they? They're a lot more expensive than I thought they would be, and I think because there's companies out there who now make the plastic versions of them, the sort of the laser cut versions of them, that's definitely brought the prices down of them. But yeah, it can be a little bit of a shock.
But I get a couple of them and you look at it and go, oh, bloody hell. I'll just buy one, and then you buy the wrong size anyway. But yeah, I think third radius is because I mean most people if you're modding an OO or even in TT these days, the train set will come with third radius curves, and they're a good guide for when you're sort of building your layout to how to plan your track to roughly go right. Well, I don't really want to go smaller than third radius because second radius curves don't look right. You can't run your trains at high speed and then they just derail there. And I sort of roughly use them to work out where the curve will go, and then I'll try and build a transition curve. There's a video by an Australian modeler, and I can't remember his name. And I can't even remember the name of the term of the curve now, which is really annoying. So you won't be able to find this video at all. But essentially, it's a way of designing a curve that would allow you to have a very sharp sort of set track curve in the middle, but it transitions. In fact, it may even be called just a transition curve. So it'll take you from the straight into a very gentle curve, and then it'll get sharp in the middle, and then it'll go gentle again. And it sort of roughly meets the same area as a set track curve, but it's a lot smoother and it's not so jarring to the eye. And it's quite a clever method. And if I can remember the video, I'll try and tell you what it was. I watched it a long time ago. You just sort of build a card template out of it. It's useless me telling you. I've got the template over here. Hang on. If I try and look at it and work out, but it is a good idea, and I did use it, and it did work really well. And then you could bank the curve as well for elevation, and the trains will go around it quite nicely. Yeah, that's it. You essentially you work out the size of the curve in a sort of in a sense of an L shape. You've got your y-axis and in your x-axis, so to speak, and then you number them. Looking at this, I've done my usual ADHD of numbering one line the wrong way around and then having to correct it. So yeah, you do. So you go from one line. We'll talk from the corner. So at the corner, you start at 20 on the bottom and 1 on the side, and you go up in increments to 20 one way. And they're looking at these roughly. They look to be about 2 centimeters apart. And then the other way, you go from 20 on a countdown, and then you just draw straight lines from each line. So you'll connect 1 to 1, 20 to 20, and you keep doing that. And what it'll do is the lines will eventually cross paths, and where they cross paths, they will make a curve. And that curve, you then cut that out. I did mine a bit of cardboard, make a cardboard template. You cut it out, and you've then got this transition curve, which is sort of like set track, but it looks a lot better. And it's quite a clever method. Now, I'm not quite sure the spacing. I think the spacing between each box, so to speak, or the grid will determine how wide your curve goes. But that's the general rough idea of it. I can't quite remember it, but I know it's an Australian model. I'm sure it's called a transition curve. And it is quite a clever method when it comes to your track planning and what to do and how to sort of get away with those set track curves.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't use set track; you have to use streamline track. The set track one won't work, but yeah, it's kind of like that. Or the alternative: have you ever mixed up your set track curves just to try and make them look a bit smoother?
No, I've never tried it, and I'd be intrigued if I could. I guess when I was doing the TT layout, I guess technically I was, because I was using those curvature pieces to make 6th and 7th radius on certain parts of it. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th radius on some of the wider curves on it. So I guess I have been using streamline flexi track when it comes to using sort of Pico streamline, but I've not tried any of these transitional curves, and the more you've talked about it, the more I've quite liked the idea of it, really.
Yeah, I as I say, it was just a coincidental video I came across, and I used it on my Marylebone based layout. Built the curves using that on there, and they worked quite well. And it was it fitted within the plan, because I mean that took a lot of planning, like working that one out. Because sometimes you do just need to sit down with pen and paper and just keep drawing out ideas till you know they're going to work.
Yeah.
And I know with that, I think you don't have to build a layout exact to prototype. I know some people like to, but again, you often read even in magazines with certain prototypical base layouts. Well, they'll say they've compromised here and there. They've removed this bit of junction, or they've gone from 6 sidings to 3 sidings to fit it within the space constraints. But I think looking at the prototype, even if you're trying to build your own fictional railway, is really useful in your planning process, because it shows you how a real railway goes together and what it should look like. Because it's so easy, particularly if you're coming out of the train set into a model railway, those train set habits die hard, and it's kind of that case of trying to squeeze as much in onto the baseboard as possible. And you might find that I'll put the yard here, and I'll stick an engine shed here, and it might be a case that you've got one set of points that run straight, will switch off the main line straight into the engine shed. But if you looked at engine sheds properly, you'd see that they tend not to switch immediately off the main line, and you'd have a direct line running into the engine shed. Because the problem there is, if your engine decided to run away from the shed for whatever reason, airless cleaner perhaps, and was meddling with the controls, the engine would just run straight out onto the main line. Whereas on the prototype, more than likely, the points would have there'd be a type of catch point, and they'd just have a runaway bit of track. So if the loco did run away, it would run onto the main line and collide with your passenger trains. So it's little details like that can help with your planning, and sort of get an idea of how things work. And that's what I used on the Marylebone based layout, because I looked at Marylebone as it was in the 90s and tried to adapt my layout design as similar to that as I could, because then I know it worked and it looked right.
Yeah, and the thing is, I really like. I've said it before. I really liked the look of your Marylebone style out. I think it just worked really nicely. And those of you who haven't, go back and have a look at James's video, because it was a really nice looking layout, and the way you designed it. And I think if I was ever going to do an end-to-end style layout, that would be the sort of style I'd go for, and I'd definitely steal your ideas on it. But it's been well documented, I'm not exactly an end-to-end kind of guy. It's interesting. We talked about how you tend to use the set track curves and stuff to try and save space almost in what you're doing. But me personally, I don't like to use set track when it comes to points. And obviously points are a massive part of your layout. And like you say, your points, as soon as you start adding points and crossovers and stuff like that, it starts taking up a considerable amount of space that you weren't necessarily expecting in your head. And that's why, like you say, having points available to lay out and just sort of check layout and what sort of design you have is really useful. And that's why you get Pico, who have it where you can print off versions of their points so that you can start laying them out on your baseboard, and you do get that idea of how big or how much of an area they actually take up when you're doing all of these point areas. I don't know if you're the same, and I think I sort of roughly talked about it when I said about how when you move on with your 009 layout and you start adding extra sections in, I can't wait to see you do a section that's just like a scenic area, because I've come to realize that I do actually really enjoy seeing layouts that don't necessarily have lots of points going on in certain areas, or where they do have the approach the main sort of show or the main section on the layout. And I do like to see these vistas where I know every part of a layout is scenic, but it's the part where it's almost that dull scenic that is so mundane and run of the mill everyday life. But when you actually see it, you go, oh, cool, that actually looks really, really nice. And it can be something as simple as maybe a couple of bridges, but it's just the hill, it's the grass, it's the fields, it's the trees, it's all of those things that we sort of take for granted. And I think a lot of people lose sight of how nice a very simplistic, just straight, or at least like normal piece of track with no points and no sidings can actually be visually. And I put Port Creek in this because apart from the bridge, it is a very simplified layout section of track that is effectively, it is solely there to get the trains from point A to point B, and nothing happens with those trains on that particular part of the layout. And something like that can be really simple for someone when they're first starting or they're first designing a part of their layout, because it gives you the scope to work on your scenic skills, more than necessarily having problems with points and stuff like that might take up a lot of space and actually ruin the part of the hobby that you look forward to, which some people it's scenic, some people it is having yards that they can operate in. But do you ever consider that having those straight pieces of track? And I'll look at George Williamson's, was it Corish, which was the circular layout that had like the curved baseboard, so it was just one big oval.
Yeah.
And it's that simplicity of just having that straight line of track that just runs through this beautiful vista that doesn't necessarily have much going on, but it's still stunning to look at as a layout.
Yeah, that's it. It's kind of again, it's all. I suppose it comes down to the compromise of it all, and not. And like I said earlier, it's trying to move away from that train set mentality of squeezing everything in, and it's asking yourself what would you like on your layout to what would be nice to have. So if you are intending to go, well, I want to model a big station. Well, that's your tick your box for what you'd like to have. And then your nice to have would probably be, well, it'd be nice to have a depot on the side for the diesels to go into, or a goods yard for engines to be shunting. But that they're nice to have. They're not a necessity to the design of the layout, and it's working it from there. So it's taking that plan and seeing, right, well, I've got this space to build in. I can fit the station in here, and you need to take in considerations like your longest train as well. That's always going to affect your track planning. It's working out how long a train do I want on this layout, or what can I fit on this layout. And for a lot of modern image modelers, HST is usually the go-to kind of train that you want. And then the HST is not even the longest train, because if you're doing very modern image with the Freightliner trains that we see today, they are absolutely massive. So some of the trains, particularly like the jumbo trains that come out the Somerset quarries, can be up to 2,000 feet in length. So trying to model something like that, you're going to need an awful lot of space. But it is still a case of, if you're building a station, then you probably want to fit your HST in there. You're going to look at HST, you're going to look at probably a station of roughly around 10 feet. And that is a lot of space taken out. Then you're probably going to want a junction either side so that you can get into the various platforms of your station, depending how big your station is. So then again, as we mentioned earlier, those points are then going to start eating into your space. So it's all about considering what would be nice to have and how to do it. And then there's other ways as well of including that station, but not letting it dominate the scene. A lot of people do the model of a half station approach, but they'll build it right next to the entrance and exit of a fiddle yard, so that your train just slightly creeps out of the fiddle yard, but it looks like it's coming into the station. So you still have that station feeling there, but your fiddle yard is your station, so to speak, and it's not scenically dominating what you have left of your space.
Yeah, and I think let's talk about the biggest one who's done that. The Everard Junction layout is the first one that comes to mind when you have the almost the hidden station that absorbs a lot of your space that your station would take up.
Yeah. To me, the one I was thinking of was I think it's by I think they're on Instagram, Chilt N Railways, and I believe that it's called Tamworthy, and this is this lovely little N gauge layout, sort of based on the West Coast Main Line station design. And again, it's off my head, it's 4 platforms, and then there's a little bit of an engineer's siding or loco stabling point to the side, and then the junction work to get in the various platforms. And that's all that layout is. It's just an end to end. And then they fit it in a very small space because it's N gauge, but it's the scene's not dominated by the station. It's just on the side bit, like you say, like Everard Junctions, it's done the same. And that gives you more space for other scenic modeling, because it all depends what you like. But I think, most people fit these massive layouts into their room, because I think one of the problems with that we get with YouTube, I think I was talking to George about this the other day. If you build small layouts, it's really hard to get noticed on YouTube by watchers, because I think the audience like to watch really big layouts, but I think the audience like to watch really big layouts because it's probably that dream layout that you can't currently have. Because I think if we're honest, they're the YouTubers with the massive layouts are the minority. I don't think there's hundreds and hundreds of modelers out there who all have the luxury of a converted loft or a converted garage, a really nice shed at the bottom of the garden, considerable size to build these massive layouts in. I think sometimes it's difficult for someone to watch these YouTubers look at these massive big layouts and dream and go, I want the same, and then they'll try and build the exact same, but they're trying to squeeze a pint into a quartz pot kind of thing.
Yeah, I get that. I think
So
sometimes as well, people's layouts look smaller sometimes on YouTube. It's that sort of thing of you lose by watching it on YouTube. You almost can't comprehend how big the layouts actually are in real life. And I think Everard Junction is definitely one of those people who, until you really sit down, I think if you watch one of his latter videos on the channel before he moved house, he even like gives you the dimensions of how big the layout is, and it's huge. It's absolutely massive. And I think that's something that people will go, oh, he's got this big vista, he's got the station, he's got the fiddle yard, he's got all these things, and people lose sight of the fact that they don't actually sit there and go, well, wait a minute, how big is that actually? And like measuring it out, you suddenly go, oh, that's a lot bigger than I thought it would be, kind of thing. And it's quite difficult for people to have that sort of space for those layouts nowadays.
yeah, I think for a lot of us younger models, let's say younger in quotation marks, we can't quite afford the large luxurious houses that our parents could buy because. Sorry, I got very distracted there because I just heard a Class 37 go by. I just had to check my phone. I'm pretty sure that's a 37, just open train lines. We don't all have this massive space, do we? So it is difficult. But I think if you're clever with your planning, you can get those things that you want to. Well, sometimes it's a case of just considering, and this is where it's more of a before you even get to the track planning, it's I suppose it's space planning, is to look at your space and work out what you've got and what you can and can't have. Because if you've only got the box room in your house, it's no good going out and buying a Class 50 in O gauge because you really, really want a model O gauge. I mean, you might be able to build something in there, but you're probably not going to get what you want. You're not going to get the diesel depot of the loco shunting in around because your box room is only 8 foot long and 4 foot wide kind of thing. It's you're squeezing in. I don't know what box room's only 4 foot wide, 8 foot long. Probably 6 foot by 8 foot, I think, is a standard box room. So, planning what you're going to model in I think is a very important aspect as well before you even move on to your track planning and working out what scale you want. So the O gauge modelling in the box room of the diesel depot is not going to work out for you. But if you're adamant that you want to work in O gauge, narrow gauge might work out for you because that's just essentially that's O gauge track with O gauge models. And all of a sudden that might be something that fits in your space. If you're, however, determined that you do want to do diesels, a small box room like that. Yes, if you look at the track plan books, and I think, those CJ Freezer track plan books at Pico sell that are usually the ones I've got £1.60. I mean, they're probably a little bit more than that now, but I don't think they're more than £5. They are brilliant for giving you ideas of what you can squeeze into those really small spaces. They are a little outdated in their style of modeling as to what we do these days. They are very much still a train set concept, but they still have some very good space saving ideas and that you can adapt. You don't have to follow those plans exactly. You could do that. Or alternatively, is you just look at that box room and you go, look, the best thing that's going to fit in here is either N or TT, and then you make your plans from there. It's sometimes that's that word we like to use. It's that compromise, and it's working out what you can fit and what's going to work out best for you. Because there's no point investing in something and then feeling frustrated because you can't get everything that you were after, and now you've gone and spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds on models that are no good to you because you've not got that dream layout, and that can kind of destroy the love of the hobby sometimes. I think the frustration that it can build.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where because obviously the whole point of this is planning, and I feel like we're sort of moving towards the whole last week's discussion of micro layouts, or not last week's discussion, but the talk of micro layouts where if you've got and I think it's having a look at what you can fit in that space. And I think you saying about maybe it is that point where you have to say, look, maybe I do need to switch to N, or I do need to switch to TT, or even if your idea is that you want to do a diesel depot, like to be honest, your diesel depot is probably best suited in double O. And if you can work out a really like nice, tight fitting layout, then you can really help yourself. And I think I've said it before. I find sometimes it's not the length of the layout that restricts you, it's the depth. And it's the fact that you can fit a lot into 8 foot, but if you take 4 foot out into a room, that's taking up a massive amount of space in that room. Whereas if you have 8 foot and it's only 2 foot wide, yeah, okay, you can't necessarily fit as many points and junctions in across it, but you can definitely fit a lot into it in that space still within 2 foot rather than 4 foot. And it's knowing what your limits are. And like you said, trying to work out what you can fit in a space and putting your points out and stuff. Actually putting a 2 foot by 4 foot board, for example, inside that room that you're going to be working in, or measuring it up, whether it's paper, cardboard, or something like that, having a rough idea of what that looks like in the room will massively change how you feel about your layout design. And you go, right, okay, well, I have to be realistic. And I think we've all done it where we've taken the track plan books, and I definitely had a Hornby track plan book that had so much in it that I wanted to have. But actually, if I'd been realistic, I think, especially in double O, with the house sizes and the availability of what we have, I think sometimes you need to decide what's most important to you. Is it an engine shed? Is it a diesel depot? Is it a station? Is it a yard? What are the things that are most important to you? And we come back to that chat from last year where you almost need a list of what's a need, what's a must, and things like that. And I guess on that, you would also put, is a roundy or a tail chaser layout the most important thing to you? Is it an end-to-end layout? How can you fit those compromises that you've got in that space that you've got whilst you're trying to track plan? Because if you work out that the turntable, let's go for a turntable, for example, a turntable, and if you wanted to have a ream of locos going round it for the engine shed, that's actually not as small as you might think it would be. If you want to save space, you kind of want to have it where half of the turntable has got lines coming off it, and then you almost have the turntable at the edge of the baseboard, because that's going to save you the most amount of space. And you have to look at those compromises versus having an engine shed that goes all around the turntable.
Yeah, and if you want a space save, like you say, the roundhouse style round a turntable, it is going to take out a considerable amount of room because you're fanning out your lines. Whereas if you just had like a 2 to 4 road engine shed with junction style points, or a ladder style junction, should I say, going in and out of that shed if it's open at both ends, and then a turntable at the far end of the depot, as was the most common design sort of in the Steam days, you'll find that that's a much better space saver, because that turntable will now should fit in at least a 50 centimeter width footprint of baseboard quite nicely, and you've still got your option of a turntable. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's working out what you want out of your layout and what's going to entertain you. There's no point you building the massive roundy station-based layout and then omitting your goods yard if actually the bit of modelling you enjoy is shunting. Well, omit the station, have the goods yard. You don't have to have a station on your layout. It's one of those things that I think lots of people, especially back in, I think if you look in the old magazines in the 80s and 90s, it was like every layout had a station on it. And I remember, there'd be articles where people were trying to argue, look, you don't need a station. You can have a layout without a station kind of thing. And it has increased over the years where people have gone, what do I need a station for? Actually, I just want to model this. I want to model this. So yeah, it's asking yourself what your space is, what can fit in your space, and what you want to get out of it. And once you've decided on those three, then it's time to start drawing up your track plan and working out what you want. And then there's further considerations there, because then you may want to ask yourself, well, do I want this layout to be permanent fixture in the room that it's in, or do I want to take it to exhibitions? So then you're going to have to plan around that. If you want to build it as an exhibition style layout, then you're probably going to need to look at reasonable size baseboards that you can handle, the ability to set it up and take it down, how you transport it. So, all those considerations come into it. So there's lots and lots of things to think about before you even sort of start drawing out your plans. But when it does come to your track planning, there's no harm in just getting some paper, drawing out rough ideas and seeing what develops, and just sometimes just draw it out and leave it for a couple of days and come back to it and then have another look to it. That fresh pair of eyes kind of approach to it. Because sometimes you'll draw something and you come back, you go look at it, you go, no, actually that isn't going to work. Or you'll have a think, you go, actually, if I do this, I could do this. Um, and then sort of an idea may just pop in your head kind of thing. And the other thing I like to do, I mean, apart from build 3D track plans, which I've had a go at before, just draw. I mean, you don't have to be a brilliant artist. Just kind of sketch out how your layout looks in your mind's eye. Because that's what I've done with the 009. In my mind, I was looking at images of Corris and Welshpool, where the railway is squeezed between the back gardens of cottages, and I was like, I want that. It looks so beautiful the way that it's just squeezed into this tiny little Welsh town. So I drew out some ideas of how I kind of wanted the layout to look before I even drew the track plan. And then when I got that, I worked out where I could put these elements on the baseboard to get my idea to work. And I think that's a good approach as well.
I think you're right. I loved when you made the little 3D model of your 00 gauge design, and it helped me understand what you were going for with your layout. And it's kind of a shame that particular layout design never came to anything, but then at the same time, it looked so bonkers when you saw it in the 3D thing. I think sometimes that's when you go, oh, okay, maybe this won't work in this situation. It's definitely such a clever idea with trying to navigate what you're trying to go for on the layout. I feel like sometimes when I dream of different layouts and ideas and things like that, I do try and think about the 3D aspect of it. And I think maybe that's something we need to do more. You get people who build micro versions. I guess architects are I'm not calling us all architects, just to clarify that. I don't want anyone to get upset with me. But it is that thing of like people build miniature versions of what they're going to build. So they get a rough idea of the sort of the challenges they might face, how much elevation they need, how far the track needs to be up to in order to promote this hill, or whether the houses are above the track and all that sort of stuff. And I think sometimes when it comes to the planning stages, we do need to almost take a step back and really think about what we're doing before we do it, because I think that's where most problems come from, is through the lack of the actual planning stage of the track and where it's going and how big the area is going to be and stuff like that. And whilst when we're planning these things, it would be great if you can squeeze it into a smaller space than you actually have, and then you know that if you do come across any problems, you can create sort of smoother curves, or you can fit an extra set of points in. But sometimes it is worth doing those extra little bits of planning in order to cement your idea and for you to go, yes, this is something I do want to do. Is it too technical for what I want to do? And like in your instance, you like to do small little layouts, compact designs, little modules, stuff like that. And can I achieve what I want to in this space in order for me to finish it and then move on to the next thing?
Yeah, that's it. And it's I mean, it's the other thing I sort of say about the 3D, but that can also help in planning if your inclines are going to work, because it's so easy to decide that I just branch off here and we'll have the track climb here and it'll go over the rail here and it'll do this kind of thing. And it's so easy to draw it on a piece of paper and go, that'll work. And if you build it in 3D and you scale it down, then you'll work out actually that incline it's too tight. And then you can also, take on to further testing by building the incline yourself. You don't need to go out and start cutting wood and building a baseboard. You can just get some planks of wood, get your track. If you're building a curve as well, set track will usually be the best and to sort of test it, and then just get the likes of some books or something just to raise the track up in that planned incline and see if your trains can actually deal with that. Because I think that's one of the major flaws a lot of people, especially when they start the hobby, wander into, is that they like the idea of these inclines and climbing up and trains passing over trains. but they're not realizing actually that you need quite a bit of space to get a decent incline to get your trains to do that in the first place.
Yeah, speaking as somebody who has got inclines on the layout, it's a very scary thing, and especially when you're trying to do it over as long a period as possible so that the incline is as smooth as possible. I don't think I've only got 2% inclines on my layout, and that was scary enough, knowing that that's the sort of the bare minimum a lot of people were saying. Especially when you come to having like the long trains that I currently have on my layout, that's when it becomes more and more scary because suddenly your realistic trains, the length of them is actually going to possibly have to go down in order to help climb the layouts. Now, hand up here, I know for a fact that depending which direction I run my HST on my TT layout depends at how fast it has to go up the incline in order to make it up. If it has to head up the curved incline, it has to go much faster on the controller to make it up there and then come back down. Yeah, if it goes the other way, where it goes up the straight incline, it's a lot easier. And I think this is one of the planning side of it. And like you say, the having the incline, how much of an incline can you do on a straight? Is it struggling with the straight? Well, then it's definitely not going to work with a curve. These are the kind of things where you kind of need to find a way of proving it will work before going out and spending hundreds of pounds on track and getting it all built.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's all in the planning, isn't it? It takes time, and I think the hardest part is you have that dopamine hit and excitement of building a layout, and I'm going to do this, I want to do that, and you'll jump straight into it. But before you even cut your first bit of wood, I think it's most important to sit down, work out what you want, how you're going to get it in there, will it work? And like you say, test elements like inclines and that, testing it and making sure that these things are going to work before you start spending lots and lots of money and wasting your time and then feeling frustrated and annoyed with the hobby because it hasn't worked out the way you wanted.
I actually think that there's a really good one to talk about here. Max Trains, who's a TT modeler, he actually sometimes when he's testing out the locos, he will have he'll have a length of track, and then he effectively adds a book and increases the percentage of the incline when testing the loco. So he starts on a flat piece of track, and then effectively he'll add a little bit of an incline and a little bit of an incline. So effectively the percentage is going up, making it harder to climb. And it's his way of testing how good the loco is on an incline. And I wonder if is there anybody out there who's got a way of testing all of these inclines? But it just made me think actually that's a really good way of testing it, but I don't know if that would work when you're trying to build a layout.
I suppose maybe it all depends, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's just a case of just working out that incline and then just making sure, again, taking your longest train that you want to run on it, making sure that it can climb up it without difficulty before you get to that point where you start building the incline and then you've ballasted it, put your scenics on, and then you run your train on it and it doesn't get up there, and then you feel like you've wasted your time, kind of thing. But
well, it's your time and your money, I guess. But I guess that's the hardest thing about. Obviously, we're talking about inclines right now, but that's the hardest thing is how do you prove that the incline works before you build it? And I guess the only way of doing that is by making sure that you've got the smoothest curves that you could possibly get on there and the most gradual percentage of the incline, I guess. But
I'd say so. Or as I say, if you got set track curve, I mean, your curves, most people's curves are not going to be too dissimilar to set track side curves anyway. But if you built something roughly to the same size as what you're going to build, because if you've got the space where you're going to build it, you've probably got the space to lay the wood on the floor. And like you say, put a couple of books underneath and build up the incline to similar to what you plan, or even just a bit worse, than what you plan, a slightly more steeper incline. Because if your train can make it up that more sharp curve and sharper incline, then you've got a better chance of knowing that, well, actually, mine's going to be a lot smoother than that, and it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, you've got alternatives out there. I don't know if they still do it anymore. Is it power-based track? I haven't seen it in a while.
The DCC concept. Yes. Yeah, that is another alternative. And I know plenty of people who use that to effectively help increase their reliability when it comes to going up inclines, and meaning the more stock that you can take up there and stuff, which definitely appeals to those who like to use the longer trains. So obviously, like we were saying, if you're running a big passenger freight or a long passenger or a big freight layout, the ability to be able to run realistic sized trains is definitely something that you're going to be looking for. Powerbase is definitely something that you might want to look into, especially when it comes to trying to decide on your layout.
And obviously, I think, again, when you go back to the computer-aided design stuff, I think that will actually work out your inclines for you and tell you what the percentage is. So again, you'll know if it's too much because it will say, this is a 2% climb or whatever. Or a 1 in 30, well, that's too sharp. Or alternatively, it tells you what it is. And again, it's in the case of physically testing and making sure your trains can make it. So I think there's a lot of advantages to computer-aided design, and I think we've really touched on that subject much, probably because we're a little shy of using it for whatever reason. But yeah, there's no harm in doing that, or as you did, you just get someone who is a little bit more knowledgeable in it to draw your plan out for you.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of somebody who did exactly that, I think sometimes you do need people like Neil from the Little Layout Company who designs layouts. And I think Steve from Neville Grove, I don't know if he still does it, but there's people like that who you can tell them the dimensions of your room and they will design a layout that will work in that space. So maybe it is a case of maybe you need somebody to design it for you because you don't feel that you've got the confidence to do it. And that's why there's people like, it's a little bit like weathering. Sometimes you need somebody who can do it because you don't have the confidence or the ability to do it. And I think I've used people before who have built layouts, designs for me. And I know there's loads of people online who do it. And most of their YouTube channel is effectively showing you different designs each week on different things that they've done for customers. So maybe that's the other way. You find someone who can design the layout for you, and then hopefully it should all work in the area that you've got.
Yeah, I mean that's a good shout. Yeah, if you can't do it yourself, get someone else to do it. There we are. I think that's tied us up quite nicely for this little chat there. We've got a few ideas out there for anyone who's planning a layout and what to do next.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main takeaway here is start small and test.
Definitely. That's it. Lots of planning. Planning now will save you time in the future. Motto, whatever.
I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know that.
Stitching time or something. I don't know.
Stitching time saves 9. Is that it?
That's it. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
See,
let's all go out and start sewing.
That's good. We planned this podcast well, proving our point. No idea what the phrase is. There we are. Shall we take a break and then come back to the Exhibition Diary?
Yeah.
You there? Oh, me? Do you like model railways? Yes, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. Do you like comedy? No, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. If you like model railways and comedy, head over to BugglesKellyStation.com. From Dad's Army to Will Hay, Laurel and Hardy to the island of Sodor. Add a comedy cameo to your model railway today. All right, thanks. Buggles Kelly Station. You won't be wasting your time.
There we are then. That's our little chat about track planning, of which we've obviously have no idea. We didn't really. I mean, we touched on it a little bit. I mean, track planning books are a great thing to have a go at, look at as well. But
I think it's all subjective as well. That's the thing with track planning, right? Is that somebody might have one idea. I mean, we know. We have put track plan ideas out there and told people what we're doing for a layout, and everybody's got an opinion on what works, what doesn't work, what you need to change, or what should stay the same. So I think that's the thing, is just having that ability of appreciating that you might know a lot about track planning, but also understand that might not be what the person's after at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing, of course, with track planning books is that they're usually designed for a certain size room, and lots of people don't have the same size rooms to use. It's kind of like the one that fixes and fit in the box room. And various box rooms are different sizes, and the door is in a different place, and the window somewhere else, and so the plan doesn't really work. But they give you a good idea of what you can do and how you can adapt it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right, should we take a look at the Exhibition Diary?
Yeah, let's.
Right then. Right, so we're into November now. My lord, here we are. Christmas is coming. Starting on Saturday, the 1st of November, then, St Paul's Church, Blackheath is having a model railway exhibition. And it's at Paul's Church, Vicarage Road in Blackheath, West Midlands. The Ipswich Railway Modelers Association Model Railway Exhibition at the Law Lane Victory Hall, Ship Lane in Bramford, Suffolk. Gauge 1 Model Railway Association, Surrey Group, Gauge 1 live steam demonstration and exhibition at the United Reformed Church Hall, 53 West Street, Dorking, Surrey. Hereford United Reformed Church, it's the Hereford Model Railway Show. It's been cancelled. Sorry, people, that one ain't happening. Bristol and Somerset Group HRCA 15 Vintage Hornby Train Show. The King Alfred School in the Bebop at Burnham Road in Highbridge, Somerset. Salvation Army Hordern Model Railway Day. Salvation Army Church in Dean Street at Hordern, Durham. Romford Model Railway Society's Open Day at the Fair Kites Art Centre, 51 Billet Lane in Hornchurch, Essex. The Train Collectors Society Autumn Show at the Trinity Church Halls off Narber Road in Haylham Crescent, Leicester, Leicestershire. Newbury Model Railway Club at the Newbury Model Railway Exhibition at St Bartholomew's School in Buckingham Road, Newbury, Berkshire. The Heart of England Narrow Gauge Modelers Industrial and Narrow Gauge Exhibition at the Rugby Indian Association, Edward Street in Rugby, Warwickshire. This one's interesting. Mark Lane Insider Stamets UK November Stamstish. It's all German to me. Corston Community Hall, Scholars Drive in Corston, Rugby, Warwickshire. So yeah, it says bring your ices, Metropolitans, BR 103s, Ts and more. So yeah, it's all definitely very German modelling, if that's your kind of thing. Also on the 1st, the New Haven District Model Railway Club 2025 Model Railway Exhibition at the Seaford Baptist Church in Belgrave Road in Seaford. I think it's East Sussex, let's say. Sheffield Model Railway Enthusiasts Open Day. These are all Saturday the 1st, by the way. It was the Cartano Methodist Church in 1 Edgedale Road, Sheffield, South Yorkshire. West Wiltshire Gauge O Group of the Westbury Model Railway Show at the Pargan Hall in Haynes Road, Westbury, Wiltshire. The Whitney Model and Collectors Club Autumn Exhibition at High Street Methodist Church in High Street, Whitney, Oxfordshire. And on the 1st and the 2nd, the Cardiff Model Railway Show 2025 exhibition at Sophia Gardens Cricket Ground in Sophia Walk in Pontycan in Cardiff. The Elgin Model Railway Club's Model Fair at the Moray Sports Centre in Linkwood Road in Elgin, Moray. Aylesworth and District Model Railway Engineering Society. This is all weekend, should I note. The last one was as well. Lowestoft Model Engineering and Model Making Exhibition at the Energy Skills Centre at East Coast College at St Peter's Street in Lowestoft, Suffolk. The Wright Model Railway Group is having White Rail 2025 at the Medane Leisure Centre in Fairley Road and Newport, Isle of Wight. Also that weekend for the 1st and the 2nd, the Graves End Railway Enthusiast Society Model Railway Exhibition, Northfleet School for Girls, Hall Road, Northfleet, Kent. Haywood Model Railway Group, Model Railway Show, the Masonic Ballroom in Richard Street, Rochdale, Greater Manchester. The Spalding Model Railway Club Annual Exhibition 2025 at Springfields Events Centre in Camelgate, Spalding, Lincolnshire. Weymouth Model Railway Association Annual Exhibition 2025, Weymouth College at Cranford Avenue, Weymouth, Dorset. Huddersfield Model Railway Modelers Open Day at the Bath Mills. This is on Sunday 2nd only at Albert Street and Lockwood, Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. Also on the Sunday only is the Guildford O Gauge Group Autumn Open Day at Normandy Village Hall in Manor Fruit Farm in Glazier's Lane, Normandy, Guildford, Surrey. There's the Slim Gauge Circle winter meeting at the Rugby Railway Club in Hillmorton Road in Hillmorton, Rugby, Warwickshire. And that is all for the up and coming weekend of the 1st and 2nd of November.
Well done. That felt like you were on 1.5 speed at one point because you were just going through it so well.
I just realised how many exhibitions there were, and it always is in the case in November. I'm looking at the 15th and the 16th, and that looks like hell to read out. But there we are. That's
good luck when it comes to it.
There we are. It's the following weekend's not too bad. So we'll see things start to die down as we get closer to Christmas. There we are then, Sam. I suppose there's only one thing to do, and that's to tell people how to find you.
Well, if you want to get hold of me, you can find me on YouTube at Emperor's Path, on Instagram at Emperor's Path, or sporadically on Facebook at Emperor's Path. James, how can they get hold of you?
It's Western Signal on YouTube or Instagram, but don't forget the Model Rail Replacement podcast is available on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and via email with modelrailrp@outlook.com. That's all for this week. And I'm not sure what we're doing next week. Are we letting... Oh, actually, yeah, we might have a bit of a change next week that will surprise you all, but we need to confirm that before we say what we're doing. We may lose listeners. That's all I can say.
Don't start with that. That's the worst way to lead with a surprise. I mean, I'd be grateful if obviously the best listening rates were normally, but yeah, just you have to wait till next week to find out what's going on, guys.
Yeah, basically it's half term, and all we say is that last season we realised that we burnt ourselves out by pushing ourselves too much to try and get an episode out every week. So we are hoping to put an episode out next week, but it may not be us. You'll just have to wait and see in that one. There we are then. That's all for this week anyway. So all I can say is that hopefully we've been entertaining, informative, and have replaced your model railway, if only just for a little bit. I've been James, and with me it's been Sam. Thanks for listening.
This service terminates here. Please ensure you take all of your personal belongings with you.
Hello, listeners. We've got some very exciting news. Do you want to be part of the podcast? Do you want to join the team? Well, an exciting opportunity has come up to allow you to be part of the Model Rail Replacement podcast. And here's Sam with the details.
This episode is brought to you by Patreon. A huge thank you to our Patreons for their support. If you'd like to help support the show, you can head over to Patreon and search Model Rail Replacement Podcast, where you can show your support and be part of the team.
Hurry, there's unlimited places.